And Assalamu alaikum, good afternoon to you all. Welcome to IWFM's UAE region webinar number 6 of 2020. Today we're looking at technology, specifically AI, IoT and digitalisation. So welcome to all those all around the place. I think we can be quite specific in that case. And what we're going to look at today is the same template and format as we've had with the previous webinars. And it's going to be kicking off at this time. We've got one panelist joining us from Saudi Arabia, so they're in AST time, and also some in the UK who are just passing midday. Panelists today, Mick Dalton, Ozan Kozoglu, and Javiera Ijaz, who Sarah will introduce shortly. Grateful as ever to our 4 quality sponsors of the UAE region, which is Adib, Quality, BFM, and Tafawuk. And today we're going to run as per normal with IWFM. There's a quick version and refreshing for those that haven't seen it before, which is the vision as the pioneering workplace, and in particular the week our mission. And the mission of WFM is to look at the ability to empower and enable individuals to reach their full potential. So that's the whole basis, creating these conditions for the profession, and that's the reason why we've been holding webinars, apart from the fact it supersedes the holding of the CPDs, which we've traditionally held on a monthly basis. The strategic aims we're upholding through IWFM are 4 in number, and they run across in terms of being recognised, first choice of destination, fostering accessibility, and being the first choice development partner. And so this is not a recruiting campaign, but those of us that have been with IWFM and previously with BIFM for many years would welcome the opportunity for anybody else who'd like to join the organisation, and please feel free on that basis to contact us after the event. So the focus today is, do AI, IoT and digitalisation really have serious potential value in FM, or are we just dreaming? And your moderator for today, as we go through on this schedule, is going to introduce the participants and the panelists. Each will be given 3 panel questions, and then we have a particular feature of our webinars, which is a straw poll, so that you, the audience, can actually be full participants within the event, and you can express your opinions, and we'll get an immediate analysis of those scores as they come in for each of the straw polls. There's an open Q&A, so what I'd like to do is to draw your attention to your dashboard, and you'll see that there's a grey bar line there of chat. Do feel free from the very outset to send your questions into the chat box, and then we'll address your questions at the session towards the end. So in terms of the closing remarks, coming events, and feedback mini survey, that's what you're going to be entertained with this afternoon. My first pleasure is to be able to introduce to you Sarah Momtaz as your moderator for today. She's been leading as moderator for the entire series and is receiving accolades for her style and presence. And I'd like to introduce you to her. There's a laugh in the background, the camera's just coming in, is to Sarah Momtaz, and then she'll take over and run for the rest of the program today. Hi, Sarah.
Hello, David. Thank you very much, and assalamu alaikum, and a very good afternoon to you all. As David mentioned, my name is Sarah Momtaz, and I'm very pleased to welcome all of you to the 6th episode of the IWFM UAE webinar series. Today's topic is a very popular one, which is regularly discussed in FM, but today we'll be delving a little bit deeper to talk about the practicalities of emerging technologies and if and how they make a realistic difference to our daily activities. So once again, very warm welcome to everybody to today's webinar, which is titled, Do AI, IoT and Digitalisation Really Have Serious Potential in FM, or Are We Just Dreaming? I'm thrilled to be joined by an excellent team of panelists who will be talking about their experiences from an academic, strategic FM and service provider perspective. We will discuss and address if and how, within their respective organisations and personal experiences, the current global pandemic and economic situation has brought the use of technology closer to the limelight, and how we as an FM industry can help maximise its true potential. So with that said, please allow me to introduce you to our revered panelists for today's discussion. Firstly, I'm very happy to welcome Mick Dalton. He is a Master of Science in FM and a Fellow at the IWFM. Mick is currently a Senior Executive in a major development in Riyadh in Saudi Arabia. He is a specialist in real estate development projects and FM throughout the GCC, and has extensive experience in implementing cutting-edge innovation and enhanced customer experiences. Welcome, Mick. It's a pleasure to have you join us today.
Is he there?
I believe he is there. Right, we'll just move on to the next panelist. Mick may be having a couple of technical issues tuning into us. Right, we'll go on to our second panelist today, who is Dr. Ozan Koseyglu, who is a Bachelor of Science in Civil Engineering and a Master of Science in Construction Management. He gained his PhD from the Loughborough University in the UK, specialising in innovation and technology management. Having worked on several mega projects in the UAE and Turkey, including the Istanbul airport, he is now at the University at Wollongong in Dubai. Very warm welcome, Ozan, and thanks for joining us for today's discussion.
Hi, Sarah. Thank you. And hi, everybody. Thanks for the nice introductions.
Pleasure. Thanks, Ozan. Looking forward to hearing from you shortly. Final panelist for today, Javeria Ijaz, who is an IoT specialist with sector-specific skills as an infrastructure strategist and technology innovator. Javeria is a Bachelor of Science in Business Information Technology and has since pursued a career in information systems and ERP. Javeria is currently the Director of ICT at Farnic Services in Dubai. Hello, Javeria. Welcome, and it's wonderful to have you join us this afternoon.
Thank you very much, Sarah, and welcome everyone.
Thank you, Javeria. All right, before we start, David has already mentioned this, but just a quick reminder to the attendees. It is a very interactive session, so please do get involved. As always, we will be having a Q&A session at the end. If you wish to present a question to our panelists, please feel free to do so. State your name and whereabouts in the world you're tuning in from so we can give you a mention. We'll also be standing by to receive your messages, and of course, time permitting, we will answer as many as possible. In addition, as David mentioned, after each of the discussion points, we will also be having a straw poll to which there will be 3 suitable answers for you to choose from. Just select the best suited option from the box that's there available to you. And again, it's completely anonymous. We do not capture your details. They're not taken when you're answering, so please feel free to be as honest as possible. You know, as always, these webinar sessions are designed for you, the audience, and your input and feedback is extremely important to us and very much appreciated. Finally, before we start the first discussion, just a very quick reminder that we will be recording today's webinar and will be released on the IWFM in due course. Right, formalities are out the way, so we can now get started with the very first discussion point. And I'm hoping that Mick is back online with us. Great, excellent. Welcome, Mick. First question is, how do you and your organization see IoT, AI and digitalization impacting FM services now and post the pandemic? And if I can start with you, Mick, and if we can have the panelists turn on their webcams, that'll be great.
I don't know how to do that, but I can talk.
Okay, you go ahead, Mick. There's just a little green button there. You should see it on the side.
No.
All right, we'll come back to your webcam. That's fine. You go ahead, Mick. Give us your feedback.
First of all, our company in Saudi has got a corporate strategy to digitalize everything. So we're doing digitalization, and many things are digitalized here now. So the FM market here is still a little bit behind. They still only have people with handheld phones. They don't have any sort of like CAFM on the phones yet. But we're now putting in FSI Go as an example with one of our contractors. And that's the very first time in Saudi that they've done that. And so it's an interesting sort of change in the market. But we're using technology in a smart way. We're using technology we have a lot of palm trees in our project. We've got about 100,000 palm trees. So we've actually the first organization in the Middle East to put palm trees into a CAFM system, which is quite unique. You wouldn't think you'd put a CAFM system. But the market here for the FM company, the most they're using technology is maybe on security in the malls where they take the temperature automatically. That's probably about the latest technology I've seen here in Saudi.
Okay. Okay, thanks for sharing that. I mean, your organization is obviously looking after quite a few, communities. So how well have those communities done in terms of adopting the technologies that, you've spoken about, the ones that are available to you?
Well, we're putting in a smart city. We're doing a smart city here, and
Okay.
monitoring center, and monitoring all of the city where we are, and all the communities we run. They'll all be linked back to the smart city. So,
excellent.
And all the utility plants like SDP, DCP, they will all be monitored by the smart monitoring center.
Okay.
So I wrote the strategy for it, and they're implementing it. So
excellent. And how long is that going to take to implement? Is it being done in phases?
well, we got project development in phases. We've got Bajeri, which is a retail development that's handed over next year. That'll be linked to it. We've got Wadi Safa, which is 7 security huts. They'll all be linked back to it. And we've got Daria Square, which is a huge development. That's 3 years away.
Okay.
So, anything between now and 5 years will be built, and all these communities will be linked back to a central monitoring center. It's an FM monitoring center in the center, monitoring, and then there's local control and central monitoring.
Right. Okay. Thank you very much for that, Mick. Let's go over to Ozan, bring him into the conversation and ask the same question to him.
Yes, Sarah. Well, I think there's a lot of development in the industry for digitalization, IoT, and the utilization of this for the various services across the life cycle. I could easily say that because our work is very much related to industry and integration of solutions to industry in the meantime. We have students across from different perspectives in the programs, and also exchanging a lot of information. Right after, having the background with the industry for years, I know the criticality of digitalization and all these technologies, but after the COVID also, it has a dramatic impact to virtually utilization of these services into environment where we have chance to connect all these people and assets all together. I think it's an increasing trend now, despite the fact COVID is a dramatic pandemic. It has also its own challenges. So I believe overall this will be a sharp, steep curve for the utilization of all these technologies. That's what I could say easily, because different organizations in these days exploring all these diversified services into digital platforms, which is because of the challenges and the complexities they're going through, basically. That's what I could see overall. And from the education perspective, I could say a couple of things. It totally changed virtually at the moment, and facilitated with the different technology in the meantime. It's also going fully in that direction, to be honest. Despite the fact physical interaction is a great thing, but the artificial intelligence and all these associated technologies are becoming huge impact on the overall scenario of how we do business, basically.
Yeah, it's very interesting because, as you mentioned, I think the pandemic has really kind of accelerated all of that. We've sort of gone from 0 to 100 in just literally a couple of months. I wanted to ask you, Ozan, from a kind of academic perspective, what are the most significant factors when you're trying to promote the need for digitalization?
Yeah, I think from the academic perspective, it's all there. I mean, our portfolio of programs or the students, they're very keen on it. Young generation is quickly taking over. I don't see any need for, to be honest, because all my current program students are masters for different engineering programs, and they are all happy to be part of this digital journey. And most of the students are currently taking projects related to what is on the screen straight away. I have aviation, oil and gas, different industry very much going into this journey, and they're also positioned according to their roles at the moment. So it is a natural process of taking over now, but having seen 20 years in the industry of all this journey, as in the meantime this difficult curve, I think things are getting changed with this integration with the younger generation and quick interaction with this disruption, basically.
Yeah, and it's hard to keep up with all these technologies that are basically being updated all the time. You know, it's almost like the mobile phone craze. You know, once you get a new phone, a couple of months later, there's a new one out there. So, okay, thank you very much, Ozan. Javiria, if I can bring you into the conversation, please, get your perspective.
Sure. I mean, you guys are right. I mean, with this COVID pandemic, we see that we stepped into a whole new world where people and businesses are forced to go digitalize. It's an unseen pressure, but this is the ultimate requirement of the time if businesses wanted to stay competitive and on the go. Not only FM, as we are, Ozan is from Educational Institute, so we can see in terms of communication, everyone has to go on virtual collaboration and cloud services. And as per Microsoft, we heard that more than 700% we have seen spike in the use of cloud services. So it brought a lot of significance on technology, and all the streams along with it bring a lot of data security concerns. But coming back to operational technologies, digitalizing FM using smart sensors, as Nick was talking about, with the central command and control room, this pandemic brought a special wave to for the businesses to think about how the assets can be monitored and controlled as a norm, rather than looking at it as a special implementation. Farnec, being a smart FM company, already recognized the need of digitalization, and earlier this year we have already looked into digitalizing our back office operations, starting from procure to pay process. Farnec went live with e-procurement. We have also brought in a very nice facial recognition technology, which is not only automating our payroll through automated attendance, but it is to monitor the health of our employees. So we have outrolled it all across our contracts, which is also abiding municipality requirement. So we can, all in all, we can see ultimately innovation has, or technology, digitalization has become the ultimate theme of 2020 after COVID.
Wow, that's fantastic. Very impressive. Javiria, I mean, you mentioned obviously post-pandemic, or now that we're during pandemic, should I say, that we've seen the kind of need for FM companies to really show an interest in advancing their technology. Do you think the same thing applies across the board? Have you seen the same kind of thing, interest with the clients that you look after as well?
Indeed. I mean, Farnec is serving hospitalities, retail environment. We are in the skyscrapers. We are also managing airports, and we have seen the client interest, not only interest, and we also see the industry itself trialing out technologies like robotics, which is all equipped with AI and IoT. So that is very encouraging for the whole industry to take the initiative and be brave enough, because that's a requirement of the time for the health and safety perspective as well. We saw airline industry picking up on robotics for sanitization, and that is what we recognize, and hence we brought this facial recognition and health monitoring machines into our contract. So definitely it's very encouraging to see the industry is taking it on and becoming brave to try out all the latest technologies.
Absolutely, absolutely. Thank you very much, Javiria. If we can go on to our first straw poll question, so we'll give an opportunity for the audience to get involved and give us their feedback. So for everybody that's listening in, you have 3 possible options to choose from. You know the drill, you've done this before. So straw poll number 1 is, In a health challenged environment and process-based workspace, digital technology is now A, much less important and a lower profile than before, B, very much the same as previously, no real effective change, or C, it's now achieved much higher exposure and relevant importance. It's your opportunity to tell us what's happening with you guys. I have a very strong feeling it's going to be one out of the three.
Cancel, mate.
Okay, sorry, there's a bit of noise coming from somewhere. That's fine, that's gone now. So I'll give you a few more seconds to choose between the three options. And then what we'll do is we will publish those results. But I've got an inkling where this is going, or I'm hoping it's actually going to go in that direction. We'll soon find out. So I think that's about enough time. So if David could be so kind to do the honors. And I was absolutely right. So overwhelming majority, 83%, it's now achieved much higher exposure and relevant importance, which is pretty much in line with what all three of our panelists have discussed. Wonderful, thank you guys, thanks for getting involved. Let's move on to the second discussion point. So question 2, and I'd like to start with Mick on this one. What role do people play in the successful use of IoT and AI, and how should we best prepare them for the inevitable transition? If we can come over to you, Mick. Are you there, Mick? Give him a couple of seconds. Are you there, Mick?
Yes, I'm here. Hold on. It's not coming on. Hold on. Audio.
And it's just so fitting that we're just talking about technology and we're having issues with it during this webinar. So
I'm muted.
You're not muted. We can hear you, Mick. We can hear you. Yeah,
okay.
We can hear you. Go ahead.
Right. Go on then.
Yes, we're on question 2. So what I wanted to know from you is what role do people play in the successful use of IoT and AI, and how should we best prepare them for the inevitable transition?
Well, I think people have to be trained to do this. They can't just take it on. There has to be training for people to do it, because some of the new technologies are very complex and very difficult to learn. So
yeah.
They all have to be trained, and maybe training comes with the package. When they put the package in, they can train them for it.
Right. So you mean the software? You want to see that training coming from the software provider?
Yeah. It has to come from the software provider, because you can't buy a piece of equipment and then get somebody else to train on it. It doesn't work like that. Usually, the vendor that's supplying the smart city or the smart solution, they'll give you training along with that. The CAFM product will give you training on the CAFM. Most IoT stuff is being done like that nowadays.
Yeah. And in terms of rolling it out, you're quite right. Obviously, the software provider has to kind of come in and give the framework in terms of training. But from a FM service provider perspective, how important do you think it is for you to continue that training once that's been implemented?
Well, we do things like, we have what we call toolbox talks with our service providers all the time. So we do training for them, and we teach them all the time. We have to teach the service providers about all the things we do. They don't understand some of the things, but we teach them.
Okay, thank you very much for that, Mick. Let's go over to Dr. Ozan and get his feedback on this question.
Hi, Sarah. I was just listening regarding Mick's answer in terms of training. I will take this question into 2 different parts. One of them is really, it's a journey of transformation, I could say, inevitable transition. So we need to expect that the organizations and the individuals, we are going a big transformation. If we focus on just the technology piece and the complexity of the technology or itself, I think it's going to be misleading, because it's one of the things we are mostly using digital transformation, but we need to understand what it is for the individuals and organization. It's a real journey to take from one level to other in terms of utilization of the technology and the output. I think that's one thing, a strategic look on the digital transition and transformation. The other thing is the people perspective. I think one thing is the difficulty is the cultural change and the fear of the people at certain level or certain age or whatever. One thing critical, IoT and AI or any highly intelligent technology will not replace ourselves. So we need to make it clear, right?
Yes.
It's not gonna be, nobody can copy our brains and the way we operate. It's not a straight away thing to be achieved. I think intellectual capabilities will be more important from this transition. So as much as we increase the intellectual capabilities of the individuals, the transition will be more seamless, because the transition mostly the profile of individuals. So we might need the different profiles within this transformation. I think that's what we need to be looking into, to be honest, rather than is it gonna replace me or is it gonna be changing the way I operate. It's gonna be a transformation of our capabilities, let's say, with the utilization. That's how I look into it, because I've seen 20 years plus experience in large scale transformations in this sense on the airports and others. This is the most thing we have been dealing with, but the technology can be simplified despite the fact it's complex, but the human instinct or human complexity is something we need to deal with this transformation, I could say.
Now, you make a very good point. I mean, ultimately, the technology is there to be used as a tool to enhance what it is that we do and to provide efficiencies and, you know, more productivity. And it's interesting what you said, especially coming from your perspective, from an academic perspective, that you've witnessed a lot of you know, people in the workforce, if you like, that are almost intimidated by the technology because they are fearful that it may at some point take over their jobs. And I think I mean, I can say I've witnessed the same thing here. But I also believe that that's something that we need to roll out as part of the training, to say, look, this is here to enhance what you're doing. This is a tool. This is how it's going to make things better, as opposed to, you know, the world's going to be taken over by robots in the next 20 years, which is very unlikely to happen. Well, I'm hoping it's unlikely anyway. Thank you very much, Ozan.
Yeah.
Let's bring Javiria into the conversation. Get your thoughts, please.
So any technology, when you are preparing to implement, what I believe, it's very important to identify and involve all stakeholders from the beginning. So it's not only the senior management who contributes towards the successful usage of technology, but I believe that all the stakeholders, from management to mid-management to staff to ground staff, they need to know, they need to prepare themselves. Obviously, there is always a fear of job loss, but this is where we can see that time changes and the job role changes. Everyone, we all need to upgrade ourselves fit into a different role. We know that, okay, with so much IT coming into play, there's a new roles for cybersecurity, for AI, for ML. So there is always something new coming up. But yes, it's very important, as Mick said, that to train the individual, training is a very important element, and that shouldn't happen at the very last minute when the phase comes. It should happen from the beginning, that everyone is involved and you got the buy-in from all the stakeholders.
Yeah, I just want to touch on that, because again, you've made another very good point, and it kind of leads me to mention this. One of the things that I've seen, and I'm not sure if you guys have witnessed the same, I feel that we have given a bit of an overload in terms of information to different various designations, people that don't necessarily need to have that information exposed to them. So whereas some of the technologies, they're quite restrictive. So, you know, you've got a particular role that carries out a particular task, should only really know about how that technology enhances that task. But I found in some of the training programs that it goes too deep and kind of crosses over to what other people are doing, other roles are doing. You know, employees get confused, they're not quite sure what they're supposed to be doing, and it kind of, you know, blurs the whole process. So, training for me is something that is absolutely paramount, but I think it needs to be specific to what people are doing. You don't, one sort of size training is not going to fit everybody. It has to be kind of segmented down into each of the particular skill sets and what they need to know about the technology. Question for you, Javiria, just on that point, considering technology is continuously changing and enhancing, how do you think FM companies will determine what best suits their needs?
So obviously with this fourth industrial revolution, which is disrupting every industrial in almost every country, we can see that a lot of smart initiatives coming into play. Digital FM is not one size fit all solution, because each contract, each customer would have their own different needs, resources and approaches. So a very good step would be to collaborate. What I believe a collaboration is a very important element between the asset owner and the right partner. So one has to develop a right ecosystem of partner who understand your domain, who understand what processes you want to digitalize, what is the cost implication, and very importantly, what value chain, what benefits, what return on investment you can get from digitalization, because technology should not be there for the sake of technology. It should bring the value out of it.
Absolutely. That's a very good point. It shouldn't be there just because it's a trend. That there should be a productive purpose behind it. Just before we go on to the next straw poll question, I want to bring Dr. Ozan back in here, because again, just from your academic perspective, do you think there is a fine line between the practicalities of digitalization against the cost factor for asset owners?
Yes. Well, I think asset owners are also changing in this transition in these days. However, they are looking for the outcome or the justification of this investment. Okay, that's the critical thing. I mean, if you look at the life cycle of an asset from start to the end, the owners are looking more into, okay, I'm going to be utilization of all these nice tools and technologies, but at the end of the day, how I'm going to get out of this efficiency or effectiveness on the cost drivers. There's a strategic approach from the asset owners in these days, looking for digitalization for sure 100%. But I think the two things are critical. One is consulting them into right direction, because they are looking for how many tools, what I'm going to use it for, digitalization, what I'm going to digitalize, what sort of information, for which purpose. So this is not clear fully in the industry, I could say. That's one thing. As I say, digital twins and associated technologies are something very much critical for them. But it needs to be decent consultancy to provide for them. The second thing is the real cases. I mean, really showing the clients or asset owners from that perspective. Okay, we are going to the journey of smart cities, but how are we gonna go there? Okay, so step by step, what will be the investment we are looking for? What is gonna be the intelligent perspective, utilization of which technology? And the drivers, if I invest this, what is going to bring us on the overall picture, and basically with a certain KPIs. I think this is something required in the industry. First of all, decent consultancy for them, and the second is really much getting the benefits out rather than fancy words of digitalization. That's what I'm seeing too much in the industry. We are going to be digitalize all the asset owners, but how? This is something critical.
Yeah, no, it's a good point. You both made that. It has to be something that is actually, productive and of use, as opposed to sort of following a trend of, going digital. Thank you very much. Let's go on to our second straw poll question. So again, it's an opportunity for the wonderful audience, wherever you are in the world, to get involved and give us your input here. Again, 3 possible answers. I'll read out the question for you. So of the 3 subtopics of this webinar, the one I believe that will be the biggest impact in FM is A, the Internet of Things, B, artificial intelligence, or C, digitalization. So let's see what what we all come back with. This will be an interesting one to see. I think there's a bit of a blur, actually. I'm not sure if many people can actually differentiate between the three, quite honestly. You know, there is such an overlap in terms of the way it's put across and described. So it'd be very interesting to see what our audience thinks has had the biggest impact in FM. And as always, we will publish the results straight away. I think you all have had enough time to choose one of those options. So David, if we can publish the results, there you go, how interesting. So the Internet of Things and digitalization are neck and neck at 44%, and AI is at 11%. Is that a surprise to any of the panelists? Any comments on that, guys? No?
Well, for me, yeah, for me, it's not a surprise, to be honest. But if I click on, I would click on digitalization.
Yeah.
So it will be
also,
covering the whole, yeah. Artificial intelligence, to be honest, I think it's a nice thing to hear, but what does it mean for everybody? I don't think everybody is sure what it stands for all different perspectives. That's why it's 11%, maybe.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. Yeah.
I totally agree, because I mean, as we can see that the core, the first step, how we can see for any businesses is to digitalize the process first. I mean, as the cost of IT is becoming cheaper as the time progresses, this is the same understanding of artificial intelligence and the cost of algorithms. It's a little bit not too far like robotics, but I would say that still it needs some time to get understanding and affordability.
Yeah, very good point. Thank you very much. Right, let's go back into our discussion points. We'll come up with the third discussion point, and we'll start off with Mick in true fashion. So, Mick, I'd like to ask you this firstly, please, if I may. With the increasing number of FM companies with established ICT and digital infrastructures, how can they differentiate their USPs from others? I'm hoping Mick is there. Hello, Mick. Right, okay. Dr. Ozan, if we can go over to you, let's have your thoughts. I think we're having a few technical issues with Mick. Hopefully we'll bring him back into the conversation.
Can you hear me now? You hear me now?
Yes. Yes, we can.
Yeah, okay. It was muted, I think. What do I see as the differentiator for USPs? Well, basically using technology would be one for us in Saudi. Using technology would be a good one, and then embracing sort of some of the new stuff that's coming out. You know, there's insecurity in the West, in America, and they're using security to go through car parks and monitor car parks. Here we still have guards in vehicles doing that. We're seeing things like robots being used in different places. There's a hospital in Scotland with the NHS run by robots taking food to the patients and laundry away. There are robots now in Dubai in the banks and different places. So some things can use robots. We're seeing some smart technology in things like, you know, I don't know, CCTV cameras where you can change the traffic, stuff like that. That's already here, but that's in the technology rather than in FM.
Okay,
FM just needs to know how to use it.
And what's your perspective on FM then? What do you think FM companies need to do to sort of differentiate themselves from others?
Be innovative in the way they use technology and present technology to their clients.
Yeah.
Dubai is much more advanced in that than what Saudi is. Saudi's still catching up to Dubai, so we're probably 5 years behind Dubai when it comes to FM companies using technology at the forefront. People like Farnek, Emerald, and other companies in Dubai, they're using technology all the time. Here, it's the clients have to push it with the FM companies. We have to put it into our scopes. We have to talk to the company. We even have to go behind them and go to the FM suppliers to get them to change the FM companies, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Oh, so I mean, yeah. So there's obviously a difference between the market in UAE and KSA in terms of, you know, the FM companies. But do you think there is a big difference in terms of the client technology requirements as well from the client side?
Well,
is there an appetite for it over there in Saudi?
Well, Saudi Arabia is probably 10 times more advanced than Dubai when it comes to smart technology for government. So, you know, I'll give an example. This morning, I had to get my visa renewed, and it was done in 15 minutes. Right? No,
That's
3 days.
yeah.
It was just done automatically online in 15 minutes. A new Igama, a new entry visa in 15 minutes. I was blown away by it because it takes 3 days in the UAE.
Yeah.
And it's all done online, right? So the government here are very advanced. The information ministry have pioneered some fantastic technologies in Saudi Arabia, really way advanced than any other government in the Middle East or even in the Western world. They're much more advanced here. But how does that then play down to the FM companies? They're way behind. So, you know, the top 10 FM companies are not using CAFM systems effectively across the kingdom. The top 10 FM companies are not using handheld technology. So there's a long way to go for the FM market to catch up to UAE and to catch up to what's going on in the market here with the government technology.
And Mick, do you think that's something that should be driven by the FM companies or from the client side?
It should come from both. You know, the clients have to be pushing it to the FM companies, and the FM companies should be pushing it to us as well. So, you know, it should all be done like that.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you very much, Mick. Let's bring in Dr. Ozan on this one and get his insights, please.
Yeah, interesting discussion. I have different sides over here. I think clients will be driving this transition for FM companies with their demands. But what it brings to FM companies, especially for the soft FM, the new business models needs to be emerging. So if you look at the different e-commerce businesses in the past, like Uber, like others you can remember, they totally disrupt the business model with the simplistic technologies and the way they operate the business. I think soft FM companies, whoever runs the data for the client, they're gonna be the unique selling point for the future, because FM companies need to look into not only hard FM or not only maintenance type of items. They need to look into the client as data resource. So they're gonna be running the client's data at some point with new business models. They're gonna be soft FM intelligent way with all these services integrated. That would be coming from the client for sure. But in the meantime, those companies should be evolving into more how I'm gonna be operating the client's data. I'm gonna be operating the facility for sure with the intelligent way, but also providing a client an intelligent service to run this data. Either it's a maintenance data, operational data, or XYZ. So I think that's the future for FM companies. I mean, whoever gets it, they're gonna win. Integrate this asset into different services for the client perspective. That's their unique selling point. And they are not alone there, I believe. They are with some Fortune top technology companies highly investing on this, well known. But again, there's a glue between all these. So I think Javeria is mentioning like the ecosystems. There should be a kind of asset management or integration within digital platform ecosystem. So FM is one part of it, but with a new emerging business models. Not like the existing, trying to only implement CAFM and monitor some old assets in the existing asset, basically.
Yeah. Which brings me on very nicely to the point I wanted to ask you, just based on what you said. So you basically, do you think that the technological advancement will drive FM companies moving forward as opposed to using the sort of traditional service delivery standards?
To me, asking.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
I think the clients will be driving most, I believe. the requirements and the demand will drive it. I'm sure there are very clever intellectual approach for FM approach, but not only the technological advancement will be enough. I think mixed sensor is pretty much same. So despite the fact all technology is there, they are suffering for certain things. So I think it will be the demand coming from the owner. They need to say, I'm gonna be operating this way, okay? And these are the things I'm looking for, interested in. So they're gonna be taking over new business models.
Interesting point. Thank you very much, Ozan.
Thank you.
Let's bring Javiria back in and get your thoughts on this final discussion point.
Sure. I believe unique selling point from FM perspective where I belong to. So obviously, it's, as I mentioned before, it's bringing the value out of the technology. So sensors, smart sensors, not for the sake of smart sensors, but in terms of soft services also. It's when the sensors are bringing you information which is revealing patterns to you. For example, the people counting and what day of the week and what time of the day, which give you a lot of information about organizing a lot of resources around the contractual side, not only for FM company, but for the client as well. It gives them enough information how they organize other activities around which part of the day and which day of the week. So it's really the information which is coming out of technology to utilize them to prepare yourself even better than before.
Yeah, no, it's a good point. And also, you know, we've discussed this throughout the session, the kind of continuous improvement and advancement of technology. Javiria, the use of implementation of technology, should it be a collaboration between the FM companies and asset owners? And if so, how do we then get the clients buy-in for the long term? I mean, the reason I'm asking you this because, you know, Farnek's been very successful in doing this. Wanted to get your perspective. Yeah.
Sure. I mean, definitely. One of the point that we always identify that there is most of the time disconnect between FM and asset owner or owner association, which is mostly in terms of communication and collaboration. This communication and collaboration is very critical to develop the synergies between FM and asset owner, especially to have a common goal for a longer term relationship. Now here, when you are having a vision of delivering smart FM service delivery model, you need to not only implement technology. So companies, FM companies, spend a lot of money to invest in a cafe, in a help desk, in a training center, but there is a good chance that you can miss out what ROI it brings out of it and how this technology is implemented and utilized to give you the results which were identified. So as I mentioned before, it's great to have technology, but for example, coming to the sensors again. So in your critical contracts, like we are managing airports, we are managing Burj Khalifa, Dubai Mall, so critical projects. So here the cost of downtime is very expensive, and we cannot just go and install n number of sensors, making the cost of technology too high, where the benefit coming out of it is not identified and it's not enough. So we need to work on a backward kind of approach where you identify the biggest cost of asset going down and then apply technology to reduce that downtime, which gives you more benefit and value out of your technology implementation.
Very good points. Thank you very much for sharing that with us, Javiria. Before I go on to the third straw poll for the audience, this really is your last opportunity, guys, to send your questions in. We've got a couple of questions coming in. We've already pretty much answered the ones that have come in already during the conversation. But if there is anything specific you would like to pose to the panelists, please drop us your comments, questions, suggestions, whatever it is, and we will try and get through those or as many of those as we can with the time that's remaining. So in the meantime, let's go back over to the straw poll questions. I know it's the favorite part of the webinar for many of our audience. So the final question is, and as always, there's three possible answers. Question: the FM sector in 2020 has been challenged by the pandemic. So in 2021, I expect technology will allow organizations to offer better services. A, not really, things will pretty much be the same as before. B, yes, noticeably small changes will happen. Or C, definitely specific notable improvements will take place. So again, this is for the audience. Whoever is going to be answering is going to be answering from their perspective, you know, whatever your position is in your organization, how you see things are going to be moving forward. Again, I have an inkling on which one will take the highest percentage, but we will soon find out. So last chance, guys, to send through any questions. I'm just looking through my question board at the moment. I'm not going to read out a few of these because we have already answered them beforehand. There's an interesting question here for Ozan, which I will read out shortly, which we've not really covered in details. But other than that, there's nothing else that hasn't been discussed. So, oh, excuse me, my battery's dying. Turn the charger on. Right, David, if we can please publish the results of the straw poll. Ah, wow. That is not what I expected. I actually thought that option C was going to be the overwhelming majority, and I was completely wrong. So nobody's gone with the first one, that things will pretty much be the same. And A, you know, noticeable small changes will be happening is at 60%, and 40% for definitely specific notable improvements will take place. That's actually quite interesting and surprising. I don't know if the panelists are a bit taken aback by that. I thought that maybe C would have been, you know, the outstanding winner there. I was wrong. Okay, thank you very much, audience, for getting involved. I am still taking questions, so please do send them through. But in the meantime, we have a question from an anonymous attendee, Dr. Ozan. So might be one of your students, maybe one of your students, which is why
maybe
they've decided. Yeah. The question is, it's a bit of a long one. I'm just going to read it out. Being an avid reader of machine learning, there are 6 points in AI business understanding, data protection, evaluation, and modeling. I want to know how this evolution of AI in FM is going to help us in better decision making and improving the services. I see a lot of friction in such implementation, whereas the industry does talk about this, but doesn't much move towards implementing such, except in BIA's main head office. I don't know if that's giving it away. Do you have a student that works at BIA, perhaps?
Which one, sorry?
At the head office. They've mentioned BIA's head office.
BIA's head office.
Yeah, never mind.
Okay.
So I think basically the question is, you know, with the evolution of AI in FM, they want to know how is that going to help with the better decision making and improving services moving forward.
I think partially I also answered this question. I'm not even coming to AI. I think we have a long way to go. Before the AI, we need to understand it's all about running the data on the behalf of the client, data and the asset itself. So how efficient we are going to be doing this for the client is basically improving our services with the technology. But until the AI, I think the key thing is make sure we are looking after the asset in the right perspective. Second is utilizing the client's data and the outcome in a structured way so that we can make decisions. I think that the one thing he's trying to, or she's trying to figure out what it brings, AI, FM, and decision making and that perspective, what we're gonna get out of it. But the clients are suffering. Yeah, that's what she or he is trying to understand. Clients are suffering because they're not able to get the accurate and continuous data. Okay, you're operating a massive airport or a large scale assets, and you're hardly knowing the all engineered equipments, the number of them, the maintenance scheme of them, and the relevant looking after their supply information, all data, operational data. So how are we gonna bring all this together? First of all, I think from the client owner perspective, we need to first bring them all together, right? So with the facilitator, either IoT or other facilitative technologies like digital twins. Okay, I think that is the one thing. First, integration of the data of the client, and then we're gonna be look after the asset in a more intelligent way, like soft FM services. I think those are the two things. We have two parts. One is the client's data, the other thing is the soft FM services. I think whoever integrates both two with the utilization of these technologies, they are the winners for the client. And then we could able to say, well, okay, client has the right decision making, we can replace, we can look after, this is our CapEx, this is our OpEx. But it's a journey, as I said to you. I spent 20 years for large-scale infrastructure to have this journey for design, engineering, construction. But FM and operations, we had a lot of experience with David also. So it's a journey for the next 5 years, I could say, not kind of 20 years, but 5 years, a journey. And whoever asked the question, you'll get in the next 5 years.
I've got a name, actually. As you were speaking, the name has popped up. It's, I can't see it on my screen. I'm sorry, I'm getting old, guys. My eyesight's going.
Yeah.
Abhinhav Singh has asked that question. So I'm not sure if that name is familiar to you, but thank you very much.
Maybe, but yeah, you're welcome.
Thank you very much, Ozan. Thank you. I've got a question here for Javeria from Yusuf Haqi Ibrahim. And his question is, one of the major issues I faced in IoT, that data is shared in external cloud, that is an issue with some organizations that they basically don't want to do that. Is there an alternative, or is the issue reported with a solution? Is there a solution to basically storing things on the external cloud is the question.
I would say that with this trend change, where more and more businesses has gone online, yes, definitely it has been an issue. But in today's world, where we all are online and most of the services are cloud-based, it became norm. It's an education that we all had as an individual, as a businesses over the period of time, accepting it as a norm. There is an NDAs which are between service provider, cloud service provider, and the customer, and hence between FM and the asset owners that can be taken in place. But overall, in general, as the technology is evolving with the current situation businesses are in, it has became a norm.
Yeah. And I think it's a great misconception, and thank you very much for clearing that up. I think that's it's one of the concerns that a lot of companies have, but again, I don't think they've really been educated on the actual practicalities and the security behind it. So thank you for that, Javeria. We've got one question for Mick that's coming from Sonia, and I'm sorry, I'm going to have to take this as the last question because we are running out of time. And Sonia is asking, are we at risk for losing our human touch with too much digitalization? Mick, are you there? Perhaps he's not there. I'll throw this out to the panel. Do you think that we're at risk at losing the human touch because we've sort of digitalized so many processes and procedures?
Okay, coming from technology and from FM, I would still believe we are in people business, right? And the cost of technology still cannot compete with the cost of human. At the same time, as Dr. Ozan also mentioned before in his conversation, that the human instinct and human touch cannot be replaced at some extent. So yes, there is a fear, and I think we need to a little bit absorb it into ourselves and do not get too much feared about technology taking over human, because at the end of the day, human instinct cannot be replaced. I completely agree.
Thank you very much. I'm very happy to hear that. So we're going to be around for some time. We're not going to be taken over by robots in the foreseeable future. Okay, thank you very much. Guys, unfortunately, we have come to the end of the session. I appreciate all of the feedback. And as always, it's been an absolute pleasure hosting these sessions, and I hope you have enjoyed it as much as I have. Please be sure to join us for the next webinar in the series, which will be happening in December. David will come on in a second and give you some upcoming dates for your diaries. But just before he does, I'd like to sincerely thank all the attendees and participants for tuning in today and taking part in the questions and answers and the straw polls. Of course, excuse me, a huge thank you to our brilliant panelists, Mick, Ozan and Javiria, for sharing their expertise and knowledge on such an important and significant subject, which is pretty much the core of the current evolving landscape in FM. Big thank you to our wonderful support team in the UK and the UAE. Without them, these webinars would not be possible. And I'd also like to take this opportunity to quickly thank our superb and loyal IWFM UAE sponsors. We have Adib FM, Quality Refrigeration and Air Conditioning, BFM and Tafawuk, which is an Eltizam company. So on behalf of IWFM, I'd like to thank you all. It's time for me to sign off and bid you farewell. So it's goodbye. And I'd like to hand back over to David to wrap things up. Thanks very much, everyone.
Thank you, Sarah. And a big virtual round of applause, as everybody has to do now, for Sarah Montaz for being our perennial moderator of distinction. Okay, for your diaries coming soon, we have got another webinar lined up for middle of December on the 15th. The problem is rather like with this week, when there are, by my count, 5 other conferences and webinars going on, very much on similar type topics of technology. But in the middle of December, we're going to look at relationship management in particular. And then coming up in the new year, the program's yet to be fully ironed out, but we will be having more events starting in January and going through to Q1. Please do look us up on the community events on the IWFM website, and also IWFM UAE group in LinkedIn, where we're just about to crest through the 1,000 member milestone. We're also represented on Facebook, originally set up for more social events, which we hope will return in the new year at some stage when we can escape the grasp of COVID and the pandemic. And also we're just developing it on Twitter and shortly on Instagram. But for everybody who's been kind enough to sign in today, your feedback is important, and at the end of this event there will be an opportunity where you can come back and let IWFM and ourselves as a production team know how you enjoyed the event. So that's all from us in the UAE. Stay safe and stay healthy wherever you are. Thank you very much and goodbye.
Thank you, David.
Thanks, guys. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.